Look, we've all had our little gamer rage moments in the past, right? Or if not with video games, maybe something else that's made you irrationally angry. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do other than letting it out, but there is such a thing as going too far. What famous gamers have rage quit the hardest? How extreme can they get? Stick around to find out. How about we start off with the time Mizkif threw his controller against the wall. Mizkif is known for quite the variety in his streaming content, whether solo or alongside his girlfriend Maya until their breakup late last year. When he's not reacting to Spotify charts or dishing out political compass takes, he'll be playing games, such as when he was speedrunning Super Mario 64, perhaps the most famous game in the speedrunning medium. I'm sure you're well aware of how this works, but for those who aren't so privy, Super Mario 64 is also home to one of the most well-known glitches in video games, this being the backwards long jump. Though tricky to get down, when performed properly, this jump allows you to leap all the way up what was supposed to be an endless staircase, as well as clip through doors and walls. Use of this technique completely changed the way the game was run, and empowered runners to complete the game with barely any stars. So naturally, Mizkif was trying his hand at the maneuver, but doing this on a consistent basis is a lot easier said than done. Trying something over and over again and coming up empty each time will get increasingly more frustrating over time, and that's exactly what he was going through. Eventually he'd had enough, screaming, "You never do it," presumably yelling this at himself here. With that, he tosses his Xbox controller against the wall, slammed his headset to the ground, and stormed off. Sadly, on that day, we learned that throwing your controller at the wall does not help you clip through it. What about the time Tyler 1 threw his controller on the floor over and over? Throwing a controller seems like a pretty extreme thing to the uninitiated, but to be honest, it's one of the most common ways of expressing that hot, fiery gamer rage. Like a frustrated tennis player hurling their racket or a golfer whacking his club against the green until it's bent, the controller is your primary tool, and if you failed, well, it's easy to blame the controller. Gamers aren't carpenters, you see. They blame the tools all the time. Okay, that's enough metaphors, I suppose. Anyway, yes, throwing a controller is pretty bad, but in the heat of the moment, it is understandable since it's the thing that's right there in your hand at the peak of fury. But let's say you threw your controller and then picked it back up and threw it again and again and again. Well, that's a bit harder to explain, isn't it? After a certain point, you begin to wonder if there's a bigger issue at play. That kind of scenario occurred for Tyler 1, known primarily for League of Legends streams. He's got a bit of a history with rage moments. Honestly, it's just good content for the big-time streamers. But at one point, he was playing a game famous for inciting rage in even the most calm of players, that being the famously difficult Dark Souls 3. He was taking on the dangerous duo of Lorien and Lothric, and as you might imagine, they were killing him quite a lot. Eventually, he could take no more and ended the stream as he sought to take vengeance on his controller. The wild thing about this is how deliberate it was, as he took the time to actually unplug it first, very rare in these situations, then sling it to the floor by the cord not once but twice. This felt less like your usual heat-of-the-moment slip, and more like a personal vendetta against triggers and joysticks. Next, here's an example of Ninja getting real personal with his viewers. Something you should keep in mind about these rage moments: inherently, they're irrational. Just as you can't talk someone out of being afraid of something when they have a phobia, no matter how nonsensical it may be, when a gamer or competitor in general is doing poorly, there's not much you can say to make them calm down. During these moments, it's best to just leave them be, as you could be surprised at how much vitriol is bubbling under the surface, waiting for even the smallest excuse to explode. Now, the blue-haired boy here probably doesn't need too much of an introduction. Ninja is one of the most famous streamers out there, the top dog of Fortnite, a game that he is so synonymous with that they actually added him into it as a skin. While beloved by many, Ninja has no shortage of controversies and rage moments, famously cursing out children and reporting someone who killed him for stream sniping without any evidence. Ultimately, this comes down to the same thing, which is that he takes a lot of pride in his play when it comes to Fortnite, and sometimes pride makes you do some mean things. One of his streams saw him go on a dry spell in matches, and after he was fed up with the losses, he decided to stop playing for the day. As he complained about the bad hands he felt were being dealt that day, a comment whizzed by reading, "It's a game, chill," which is true enough. And mind you, Ninja isn't paid to win, he's just paid to stream. But obviously, this wasn't something he was prepared to hear, as he really went off on this viewer, berating them with a series of put-downs. "I bet you suck at everything you do. I bet you're just terrible at everything," he yelled. Strangely, he also seemed to presume that they always quit when things got hard, seemingly missing the irony that this was precisely what he was doing himself. But enough of the personal insults. Let's get back to smashing hardware, shall we? Controller damage? Headsets? That's nothing. Tense 1983 takes it a lot further. Brace yourself here. This one is going to be a little tense, or intense, which means basically the same thing, just a more intense version of tense. Isn't English funny? Anyway, what were we talking about? Right. So, Tense 1983 is a Spanish-American streamer most closely associated with Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and he went viral in a big way with his massive rage quit moment. Tense found himself at odds with the other members of his team, accusing them of not following his instructions. To illustrate his point, he shot his friend in the head, dead. In the game, of course. That would have been a little bit extreme in real life. This actually killed them and is what those in the business refer to as a team kill, when you shoot one of your own partners to death, usually by accident. Generally speaking, team killing is an easy way to make one of your partners rage, but in this case, it's the team killer who ended up having a pretty heated gamer moment. See, the game tracks team kills, and when he shot his friend down, Tense found himself being automatically kicked from the game and received a suspension. He didn't take that very well. He slammed his fist into the keyboard over and over, as loudly as possible, and basically obliterated his whole setup. You see keys flying everywhere and a monitor falling, which he struggles mightily to right again afterward. How do people afford to replace all this stuff? By the way, the suspension in question was for 30 minutes. Just thought that made this a little bit funnier to add. Finally, have you heard of the legend of Pinch Control Way? Alright, so unfortunately we're lacking a lot of details here. Despite my best efforts, I can't tell you the name of the people involved here. They aren't famous folks like we've been covering so far, but this is such a big gamer rage moment that I could not help but add it here to the conclusion of this list. Look up the phrase Pinch Control Way on YouTube and you will find this clip. The phrase basically translates to effing controller man. The video sees two guys playing Super Smash Bros. Melee. After taking a heavy L, one man goes on a rampage the likes of which you rarely see. He throws the controller not at the floor or the wall, but at his friend beside him, aiming squarely at his head. Then he leaps up, takes the disc out of the GameCube and smashes it against the wall. Those little things are fragile. That thing was done for sure. And to cap it all off, in a real act of vindictive rage, he grabbed his friend's phone and smashed that too, before finally storming away. It's one of the most extreme acts of rage quitting you'll ever see, and there was nothing more appropriate to cap off this video with. And that is all we have time for today. Let's take a deep breath and remember, the friends around you are invaluable, and gaming hardware is also very, very expensive, so please don't take your anger out on them. So, are there any other rage-induced moments you can think of that we missed? Anytime you found yourself rage quitting in a similar fashion? Let us know down in the comments below, and until next time, thanks for watching.